Good Will Hunting is a movie about a young man named Will Hunting who has a genius-level IQ but chooses to work as a janitor at a highly prestigious math institution. When he solves a difficult graduate-level math problem, his talents are discovered by Professor Gerald Lambeau, who decides to help the misguided youth reach his potential. When Will is arrested for attacking a police officer, Professor Lambeau makes a deal to give him liberation only if he receives treatment from therapist Sean McGuire. This movie explores the areas of moral development as well as intimacy and friendship. The 5 events that I am going to describe that are relatable to lifespan human development are child maltreatment, temperament, attachment, attraction, and developmental changes. In the movie, Will struggles facing his past of being abused by his father and dealing with foster care. He is confronted by his therapist Sean and admittedly tells him that his father used to make him choose between a belt or a wrench for his beating. Jokingly, Will tells Sean that he always chose the wrench to prove a point to his father. Sean also confesses to Will that he used to be abused by his alcoholic father. It is clear that child abuse is a problem within families and can lead to individual problems in the future for those being abused. Child maltreatment can come in many forms. Although Will dealt mostly with physical abuse, he still might have felt the effects of child neglection or emotional abuse also. Any of these forms of child maltreatment may be found separately, but they often occur in combination. Although there is no single cause of abuse, there are many characteristics that may contribute to maltreatment in children. That can include parenting stress, substance abuse, social isolation, single parenting, and socioeconomic difficulties. Will's foundation for abuse was never stated, but he did grow up in an impoverished part of South Boston, so that could have contributed to his abuse. Among the consequences of child maltreatment are poor emotional regulation, attachment problems, problems in peer relations, depression, and even delinquency. In the movie, Will seemed to have a lot of delinquent issues, including getting into fights and also getting arrested more than once. This behavior probably developed due to his abuse. This graph represents the abnormal stress hormone levels in young children in different types of rearing conditions. As shown, maltreated young children in foster care were more likely to show abnormal stress hormone levels than middle socioeconomic status children living with their birth family. In a study conducted by Allison Dubner, 3 groups of foster care children were compared. The groups included 50 sexually abused, 50 physically abused, and 50 non-abused children who would be tested for post-traumatic stress disorder. The results indicated that sexually and physically abused children demonstrated PTSD at a high level. This research reveals that abnormal stress could be the cause of physical ailments, mental illness, and sexual problems experienced during adult years. Temperament can be defined as individual differences in behavioral styles, emotions, and characteristic ways of responding. It can be referred to how quickly the emotion is shown, how strong it is, how long it lasts, and how quickly it fades. In the movie, it is evident that Will has temperament issues in various situations. For example, when Will and his friends are hanging out at a bar one night, one of his friends gets into an argument with an intelligent stranger. The stranger is embarrassing Will's friend, so he decides to get involved. Will uses his knowledge strategically to outsmart the stranger, but eventually Will's temperament gets the best of him when he asks the stranger if he wants to settle things outside. Clearly, Will was getting annoyed, so he sought action as the resolution. Fortunately, the stranger backed away and apologized to Will's friend. In a study conducted by S. Mulola, 837 women and 592 men were examined to indicate any correlation between temperament traits and adulthood educational attainment. Among men, explosive and methodical temperament profiles were associated with lower educational attainment. This study's findings seem accurate to Will's case because he doesn't have a high educational degree and exhibits a bad temperament. So the study concluded that temperament may play an important role in academic performance and long life learning over different developmental transitions, including adulthood. Like temperament, attachment plays an important part in socio-emotional development. It also begins very early in life. Recall that infancy is a prime time for attachment, and it comes in two forms, secure and insecure. Through repeated positive experiences with a caregiver, infants develop a secure attachment to that person. It has been concluded that children who are securely attached tend to have less extreme reactions to stress, be more independent and willing to try new things, be better problem solvers, and form better relationships with others. Infants whose experiences with a caregiver are negative or unpredictable are more likely to develop an insecure attachment. It has been concluded that children who are insecurely attached may refuse to interact with others, avoid other people, exaggerate distress, and show anger, anxiety, or fear. Children who are insecurely attached have learned that adults are not reliable and do not trust easily. It has been researched that attachment occurs early and continues to develop in many ways throughout a lifespan. Therefore, depending on the attachment, adults will seek out their romantic partners for comfort and security in stressful times, but others might seek a friend or mentor. In the movie, Will is obligated to attend therapy sessions in order to stay on parole. He goes through numerous therapists before Professor Lambeau personally asks his friend Sean to help him. He agrees to meet with Will and they start their sessions once a week. Things go off to a bad start, though, when Will angers Sean about his deceased wife. Although Sean was upset with Will, he still wants to meet with him in order to figure him out and help him. The next time they meet, Sean takes Will to a park to talk. Sean lectures Will about how he is just a kid and so naive to the world around him. He explains to Will that there is more to life than just wisdom and knowledge. After that point, Will gets a wake-up call and takes more of an interest in his sessions with Sean. Towards the end of the movie, it is obvious that Will becomes securely attached to Sean. He seeks Sean for guidance, comfort, and security. Eventually, their relationship turns into an everlasting friendship, and Will finds Sean to not only be his friend, but also his mentor too. In a longitudinal study conducted by Nancy Wingfield, 57 young adults were tested for the stability of attachment security from infancy to early adulthood. Attachment was assessed during infancy by using the Ainsworth Strange situation, and at the age 19 by using Berkeley Adult Attachment Interview. Analysts of continuity and discontinuity in attachment classification from infancy to adulthood indicate that the continuous and discontinuous groups were differentiated on the basis of child maltreatment, maternal depression, and family functioning in early adolescence. These results provide evidence that although attachment has been found to be stable over time, attachment representations are vulnerable to different and chaotic life experiences. Therefore, due to Will's child maltreatment, it is more likely for him to develop insecure relationships with people. Attraction refers to positive feelings about another person. It can take many forms, including liking, love, friendship, lust, and admiration. There are many factors that influence whom people are attracted to. Some of those factors include first impressions or familiarity and similarity. First impressions are important because they can allow the individual to accurately detect a person's romantic interest in them, tendency to be violent, and sexual orientation. Although first impressions may contribute to whether a relationship will develop, there is much more involved in whether a relationship will endure. Researchers have found that familiarity is an important condition for a close relationship to develop. In the movie, Will becomes very attracted to a Harvard medical student named Skylar. They first meet at a bar where Will showed off his intelligence and humor to her, and she ended up giving him her number. Clearly, Will's first impression on Skylar was memorable, and they soon began to go out together. They are able to get to know each other pretty quickly because they both live in Boston and have similar interests in math and science. So, due to impressions and familiarity, Will and Skylar eventually fall in love with each other. In a study conducted by Brianna, 150 college students read a questionnaire about attitudes allegedly completed by another participant, and then rated the attraction towards the stranger. They discovered that proportion of similarity is more important than overall number of similar attitudes. This study laid the foundation for hundreds of subsequent studies into the importance of similarity in attraction. Therefore, since Will and Skylar share a passion of learning, they are more likely to endure a relationship due to their similarity. Developmental change is the process of change that occurs in human beings throughout development. Gene expression, brain function, cognitive processes, behavior, and environmental factors all involve multiple cross-level interactions and are characterized by dynamic developmental change over time. Identity falls into this topic too. James Marcia formed a theory in which he examined the process of forming an identity. Marcia classifies individuals based on the existence or extent of their crisis or commitment. Crisis is defined as a period of identity development during which the individual is exploring alternatives. Commitment is a personal investment in identity. In the movie, Will goes through a lot of developmental change. After working side by side with Professor Lambeau, Will encounters many opportunities. Professor Lambeau sets up numerous job interviews at prestigious workforces for Will, but Will has no interest in those jobs. He is in a crisis because he is being pressured into trying to find a future for himself. He is in a state of moratorium and exploration. After all the interviews are over, Sean, his therapist, advises him to do whatever he believes is right and makes him happy. In the end of the movie, Will finally reaches achievement when he decides to follow Skylar, his love, to California and spend the rest of his life with her. In a study conducted by Jane Kroger, adolescents and young adults were examined in a longitudinal study of developmental patterns of identity status change. The research showed that the mean proportion of moratoriums rose steadily to 19 years of age and then declined. The study also showed that a large mean proportion of samples were not identity achieved by young adulthood. So, since Will is a young adult, it is more likely that he has not fully reached achievement or commitment yet, and is still in a state of moratorium until the end of the movie.